Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ashley White. I'm a second-year MPP, and I was a 2019 Segal Fellow. And I also worked in the Economic Mobility Lab for the city of Boston this summer. This is a horrible photo of me, but it is one of two taken this summer, and that's me presenting my final project. So just the agenda, I'm going to talk about who I am, give an overview of the lab, but won't take too much time on that since I already gave you that. Talk about my summer projects, and then some reflections. So about me, prior to coming to Heller, I actually worked for a bank in Boston, and prior to that I worked in the nonprofit sector. And so I had a pretty interesting experience in the corporate world. I definitely made an impact, but felt like I could do better, or make more of an impact if I went back to school and learned a little bit about policy and how they make positive change. And also felt that my values in the corporate world sort of were at odds with the corporate values. And so part of me wanting to be a Segal Fellow is to experience government and the public sector again, and seeing how I can make a difference, hopefully in an environment that is more aligned with my values. So just the lab, not going to go over this, but I was focused on the early childhood space. So the lab focuses on 3 areas. As Leah mentioned, she was in the transition to college and career, and I was focused on the early childhood aspect. This is the org structure. I wanted to show you all this just because I found it pretty powerful to be so close to the chief of policy, but also to the mayor. So the lab is right under the mayor's chief of policy, as you can see, is me and Leah. And we both reported to Jason Ross, the director of the lab. And what was also really cool is that because we were in the mayor's office, he would come in from time to time to mostly eat candy, but also chat with us here and there. So that was a pretty cool experience. So my projects, as I mentioned, I was focused on early childhood. So there were 2 sort of things that I focused on. One was an entrepreneurship fund, and the other was an analysis of a childcare survey that was sent throughout through the city census. And so the childcare entrepreneurship fund, basically what had happened and what's happening in Boston is that the percentage of family childcare has declined by 50% in the last 10 years. And so the city wanted to do something about this. And decided that they were going to create an entrepreneurship fund and give grants out to small family child care providers to either get folks to start a family child care or to help prop up existing ones so that pool doesn't continue to decline and families don't have options for child care. So my job was to come up with the application that businesses would apply to and then figure out sort of like the rubric. How are we going to decide what businesses got the grant and what businesses didn't? So that was really important work. And then the census was actually what I spent the most of my time on. So interestingly enough, there were 2 opportunities for us to work in the lab. And what was really cool is that Leah and I both picked the one that the other one didn't want. And so I picked the one that was more analytical. And I knew that analyzing the city census was going to be a piece of my project. So I basically looked at all the survey responses, created a report and a presentation that I then gave to the chief of policy and among other internal stakeholders within the mayor's office to basically say to them, this is an important issue. Families are struggling. The cost of childcare is not attainable for a lot of families in Boston, and we need to do something about this. And fortunately, they listened, and this is going to be a priority for the city moving forward. So what I learned, as I mentioned earlier, I was in the corporate world for a bit and experienced, the day-to-day there. But I learned that, politics is unavoidable. But politics in this role was a little bit different in my mind. It was more about being strategic, making sure that the right people are in the room at the right time, and making sure that, when I was presenting our findings, I was doing so in a way that folks could sort of digest, and it wasn't going to sort of make people want to run out of the room. And then I also learned that I thrive in a collaborative work environment, so the lab is really cool because it's a sort of close-knit group. It's in this really sort of innovative area, and we have the opportunity to really collaborate with each other. What was also great about my role is that I could talk to Jason and talk to my colleagues, get ideas, and then kind of go back to my desk and work on my stuff individually, which was a great balance of that external but internal sort of thinking. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And then because of my fellowship, I have a part-time job actually continuing my work in the mayor's office and in the lab. So I'll be analyzing the full results from the census, and we actually just published a report that I helped create, and we'll be working on adding more questions, changing the old questions on the survey so that we get better results. I've also discovered my passion for data and how it can be used to solve social problems. So without having done my project, without them committing that time to collecting information, I'm not sure that the city would be taking the strong action that they're proposing to do over the next year. So.